Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about going the extra mile. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, as a software engineer, how do I go the extra mile at work? Well, usually it comes down to going above and beyond in a lot of people's heads. The thing that I think is worth saying though is that very few people understand what it actually means, what the difference between going the extra mile is and actually bringing value to the company. Because some people confuse those two quite a lot. Let me explain that a little bit. So, when you say go the extra mile, I'm assuming now that you're not just looking to do something nice for the company. Because if you just want to do something nice for the company, just stay late, like work, come in before everybody else, and leave after everybody else, and that's going to be something that people are going to notice, and they're going to go, "Wow, that person really puts in the effort because you're staying longer." However, if you actually want to make a difference and you actually want to, I mean, just because you work longer doesn't mean that you're actually giving more to the company. You're giving more hours, but at the end of the day, you could be, for all the company knows, I mean, you might just write unit tests or whatever. It's the old thing that I've been saying a few times. The time that you spend is not the determining factor. It is the value of that time. How valuable it is the time that you're putting in. It shows a great spirit to work extra hours or be extra nice and extra helpful. And I mean, if you can do other things apart from working late. I mean, if you take care of certain issues that are pain points for your coworkers and so forth, or maybe when your salespeople come in and they say, "Oh, guys, we need a developer to sit in on this meeting because we need this integration thing, or this customer needs this or that. We need someone to help us out here." Doing people favors, all of these sorts of things, that's you going the extra mile. However, if you want to go the extra mile in the way that will make the real difference, you have to acquire the capacity to make meaningful change happen. And what does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. Meaningful change means that you have the ability to take a problem that is not just you saying yes and doing somebody a favor, but an actual problem that people can't really figure out how to solve, and bring tangible results that usually end with either that people are just happier overall, like they feel more productive or they feel more enjoyment from their work, or you can deliver faster in your schedule gets better because the thing you did, like you can measure that, oh, our time to market actually improved now. Or third and lastly would be you do fix an issue with the system that brings up the quality, something that tangibly can show that, wow, actually now everything's just working more smoothly. This one can be a little bit hard sometimes because it's kind of hard to really accurately measure how stable your system is. It usually is a very for a lot of people it's a subjective thing. If people are accustomed to that your system is really flaky all the time and all of a sudden it's not that flaky anymore, they will go, wow, my gut feeling is telling me that the system is better now. So that's if you can get these sorts of things to happen, this is going the extra mile in the way that really makes the difference. It's the sort of thing that if you deliver this and you can associate your name with these sorts of initiatives, the company will hold on to you at the very least, and more often than not, assuming of course you are the sort of person that they want to see in higher levels, they will promote you for this definitely with every single time, because this is, if you can do this, then you are the thing that they say that everybody is, which is the rockstar developer. This is what a rockstar developer does. A rockstar developer is the person who makes the difference in a company. And I can tell you that although all the recruiters are saying that, yeah, we're only hiring rock stars, all the companies are saying, oh, we're only hiring rock stars, on average, there might be a handful at most of true rockstar programmers in any company. at any given time, and you spot them very easily. Usually, you spot them by looking at the how like how many initiatives can they actually pull through, but not just how many. How significant are these initiatives to the company? I have so many stories about coworkers and people who have had initiatives, quote unquote, who just make an arbitrary change. It doesn't really affect anything. In some cases, it doesn't really actually help. It just creates legacy or things like that. And I've winded you a few times about that, these sorts of things, right? You've heard me say this many times. But the people who have made an impact in the sense that the solution that they provided or the tool or whatever that they built for the company, it actually makes everybody more productive. It makes a big difference to the company. It makes the product, the time to market go quicker, or it makes people happier, or it reduces the amount of issues we have with our systems. These sorts of initiatives are much harder to pull through because you need to have a certain level of seniority, and you need to have a fairly good understanding of both the product perspective, like the business. You also need to understand all the developers and kind of how they do work, and then you also need to have the endurance to get this fucking thing through. And this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of social skills and technical skills to make this sort of happen. This sort of thing doesn't just happen by accident. That's why I usually say that like if you have a problem that you can just sit down and kind of solve by yourself, that's great. If you can, but you should also know that it's kind of rare-ish that the really big, meaningful changes that make the real difference is the sort of thing that you can just do by yourself in your own little corner of the code base. You might be able to do some small improvements here and there, but the really big things, the thing that really make the difference, usually is least in a cross-functional teams and autonomous IT companies with different, silo teams. Let's be honest, they're a thing. These sorts of things usually require you to synchronize quite a lot of people, and it should be the responsibility of your tech managers and like your architect and so forth to do these sorts of things. My experience is that there is very rarely a correlation between somebody's role in the company, such as like a architect or VP of engineering or whatever, right? And the quality of the value of these sorts of initiatives that they bring to the table. More often than not, I see senior level developers who have the talent for these sorts of things bring more value than the person who's being paid to do this fucking thing. And it is because it is so rare to find somebody who is this good at all these three things. So good technically that they can understand what a good technical solution looks like. So good with the soft skills that they can get people to buy into this vision, and so fucking motivated that they pull the whole thing through. If you can find this in one single developer, you have found yourself a true rockstar programmer. That is at least my definition of a rockstar programmer. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to go the extra mile in the traditional sense, like what most people think of, it's very easy. Work extra long, take on tasks that most people don't really want to take on. Things like helping out the sales teams or picking up a bug when it's really critical. Just be there, like be supportive of people and do favors for people. That's usually the day-to-day thing that you can do to really show that you are going the extra mile. This is perfect if you're like a junior developer or something like that, and you kind of want to you want to prove yourself to your coworkers. This is a very productive way of doing this. It's much more productive than you trying to be a genius and building something that doesn't turn out so well. If you can build something that turns out great, and you find these sort of, as I was saying, smaller improvements that usually one person can kind of deal with, that's great. It's very rare that those sorts of things makes like the big difference. Sometimes it happens, but in many cases it's like a nice time. It's a nice thing. It makes people's day a little bit better, but it's also risky because a lot of time it doesn't work out all that well. The people who make the real difference, the people who go the true extra mile, are the true rockstar programmers, and I will say that they are so rare that it's likely that you might not even be working with one in your company. In quite a few, most of the companies that I've ever worked in, where we found where I will argue that such a person has existed, they are a minority, and the work that they do is so valuable that it makes the difference for the entire company. These are the developers that everybody says that they're only looking for, they're only hiring, which is complete bullshit because they're so rare that when you find them, it's it's like you won the fucking lottery as a company when you can find such an individual. And even when you do have one, in many cases, the company doesn't even fucking understand that they have such an individual. And the way that you spot them is usually by looking at these three things. What is their mastery of tech? Are they really good technology wise? Can they really produce good solutions? Number two, are they social? Can they get people on board? Because usually the really big stuff requires you to synchronize multiple groups of people to buy into a vision. And third and lastly, do they have the stamina to put up with all the bullshit, all the office politics, and all this shit that they have to go through to make stuff happen? These are the people who should be architects, but most of the time these are usually, I see, these are just usual regular people. The architect doesn't even get close to being as meaningful as these sorts of people when it comes to going the extra mile for the company. That's not always true, but I've seen it enough to see that there is a truth to the fact that your role doesn't make the quality of the role doesn't make the quality of the person. Have a great day.